SBA Publications.
Hello, my dear students. How are you all? I hope that you're doing very nice and you're enjoying your literature very much. Today, we are going to start our chapter number 12, and it is the story of Helen Keller. The name of our chapter is Life of Helen Keller. So, without wasting any time, let's get started with the reading. Captain Arthur Keller and Cat Adams Keller lived in Tuscumbia, a small town in northwest Alabama, USA. They were blessed with a baby girl on 27 June 1880. They named her Helen. She was a healthy child and her parents enjoyed watching her grow. The family was not very rich. Captain Keller was earlier posted in the army and later he earned a living as both a cotton plantation owner and the editor of a weekly local newspaper, the North Alabamian. Helen's mother also worked on the plantations. So this is about a family which is a very happy family, not very rich. And these two people, Arthur Keller and Cat Adams Keller, this couple, they were blessed with a baby girl who was very healthy and they enjoyed watching her grow. And her name was Helen. When Helen was 19 months old, she fell ill. The doctor said that she was suffering from brain fever. When the fever subsided, Helen appeared to be well, but unfortunately, in reality, she was far from that. So, when she was only 19 months old, she fell ill, and the doctors told that it was brain fever. And when she recovered from the fever, everything seemed okay, but it was not. Helen had stopped responding to sounds, sights, and simple actions. She did not blink while staring at the sunlight. She neither responded to her father's claps nor to the bright lamp that her mother brought in front of her. It was evident to the Kellers that Helen had become both blind and deaf. So, what happened with Helen after the fever? She went blind and deaf. The challenges and hurdles that lay ahead for the parents and the child were not easy. They were painful and traumatizing, not only for Helen but also for her family. Helen became a very difficult child. She threw tantrums and screamed at everybody. Her behavior became unreasonable and her parents upset. People known to the family advised them that she should be put into an institution for the disabled. Children refused to play with her and Helen became an ill-tempered, miserable and a lonely child. So what happened after she became blind and deaf? Everything became challenging in her as well as her parents' life. So she started to become a very, we can say, a nonchalant, a child who is very aggressive and she would scream at everyone. Overall, she became very lonely and aggressive child. With a heavy heart, her mother would say, Helen's behavior is getting worse. What should we do? Her soft-hearted father would simply reply, we cannot punish a child who doesn't understand what she is doing and what she should do. So what happens here? The mother is worried and she says that her behavior is becoming worse. And the father is saying that we cannot punish her because she is just a child who doesn't know what she is doing. The parents decided to seek professional guidance. They met Dr. Michelle Anagnos, director of the Perkins Institute for the Blind in Boston in Massachusetts. Michelle Anagnos considered Helen's case and immediately recommended a former student of the institution to be Helen's teacher. So the parents decided to go to an institution for help, and there this person, Michelle Anagnos, who is a professional and a doctor, he helped them by recommending them a former student of his as a teacher of Helen. She was Anne Sullivan, the lady who changed Helen's life. Anne had poor vision herself, but she was keen to work and earn a living on her own. So she accepted the job of being Helen's teacher. So this lady Anne, she was herself not very well with her vision, but she agreed to have this job and to help Helen as a teacher. On 3rd March 1887, Anne arrived at the house in Tuscumbia and met Helen Keller. Anne started teaching Helen to fingerspell. She taught her the language of touch and spelled out the word doll, D-O-L-L, on Helen's palm and then placed a doll in her hand. This was the first word that Helen learned to spell. So what was the first word that Helen learned to spell? How? In sign language. It was doll. With great patience and dedication, Anne continued with her teaching when Helen patted the cat and wrote cat on her palm. So her teacher would write letters on her palm with sign language and then let Helen feel the thing that she's spelling on her hand. This is how Helen learned the words and the feeling of things. So she would touch things and then she would know what it is called. And when she drank milk, she felt the letters milk being written on her palm. This helped Helen to learn the concept of various things and she found a novel way to communicate with others. So this is how she is able to communicate with others. Anne had to work on Helen's behavior too. Helen was rude to people. So this teacher not only helped Helen with the words, she also helped her with her behavior as she was very rude. Moreover, her impolite table manners and her social behavior needed attention. Anne insisted that Helen should dress herself and brush her own hair. So she insisted that Helen should be able to take care of herself and she needs to be better with her behavior. All this training required great skill and patience. Each time Helen disobeyed or misbehaved, Anne punished her by not talking to her. So what happens whenever Helen behaved badly or broke any rule, Anne would punish her by not talking to her. Helen's communication with the world was largely through Anne, so she hated the idea of Anne becoming angry with her. So Helen did not like her teacher becoming angry as her teacher was the only tool for her to be able to talk to others. Soon Helen learned to obey and behave well. Anne took Helen for walks and they did horse riding. Helen enjoyed Anne's companionship. So in a way, Anne had become Helen's friend as well. The day Helen learned to spell water, a new desire to learn in and her progress in learning words multiplied manifold. That experience changed her attitude towards learning. So when there was time when Helen learned the word water, it was the time when everything in her life changed. That day, Helen was so overwhelmed that within the next few hours, she learned the spelling of 30 new words, which included mother, teacher, and taught her to spell baby when Helen touched her younger sister. She even spelled out Helen Keller. So that was the day when Helen learned to spell 30 words just in one day. It was a very big deal for her. Helen recalled later, I was born again that day. I had been a little ghost in a no world. Now I knew my name. I was a person. I could understand people and make them understand me. One morning, Helen spelled out a complete sentence. Doll is on bed. So this is the life of Helen, how she evolved with her disability. Motivated by the progress that Helen had made, Anne said, tomorrow I shall teach you to read. So her teacher Anne was very motivated with her progress and then she decided that next day she is going to teach Helen how to read. Anne began teaching Helen to read. She first read raised letters and later read with braille. So it is kind of a system with which blind people can read by touching the raised letters. She learned to write with both ordinary as well as braille typewriters. She was well on her path to becoming a well-educated person. She was given all possible opportunities to develop her abilities and Helen made the best use of them. Helen developed great confidence and she even visited President Cleveland at the White House. In 1890, at the age of about 10, Helen moved to the Perkins Institution. Here, Anne continued to teach her. Helen made friends with other blind children in the institute. Her loneliness began to disappear and her progress in learning improved. She learned Latin, German and arithmetic. So, this is how much Helen learned in such a young age because of the help she got from her teacher Anne. In 1894, Helen and Anne met John D. Wright and Dr. Thomas Humason, who were planning to set up a school to teach speech to the deaf in New York City. Helen attended the Wright Humason School for the Deaf, Unfortunately, Helen's speech never really improved beyond the sounds that only Anne and others very close to her could understand. So there was a school being started by these two men in which they will try to teach the deaf people how to speak. But Helen's speech did not improve that much. But the fact that she could communicate was encouraging enough for Helen to move ahead in life. Helen wished to study in college, but before that, she had to take admission in another school that would prepare her for college. So she wanted to study in college, but before that, she had to attend another school so that she can be prepared to go to college. Since Helen could not afford the fee, Mark Twain, the famous author of Adventures of Tom Sawyer, and some of his friends paid for her education. So, when she wanted to study and she did not have enough money to pay her fees, a famous author, Mark Twain, and other people helped her out. In 1896, Helen moved on the Cambridge School for Young Ladies in Massachusetts. This was a great achievement for a lady who was blind, deaf, and could barely produce sounds for communication. Helen worked very hard at school and did not disappoint her benefactors. She began writing poems and stories. Shortly before her examination, Helen lost her father. So she worked very hard at school and she became a writer in a way. She would write poems and stories. And before her exams, her father died. Although emotionally disturbed, Helen did her best in the examination. Anne could not accompany Helen to the examination hall. A teacher spelled out the questions in Helen's hand and Helen typed out the answers. The following week, she learned that she had passed all the subjects. So what had happened, even though she was going through a lot and her teacher could not accompany her to the examination, she was still able to score really good in all the exams. In 1900, Helen entered Radcliffe College, becoming the first deaf-blind person to have ever enrolled at an institution of higher learning. The girls in her class were friendly and they even elected her vice president of the class. So, she not only got an admission in a college of higher studies, she also became the president of her class. Vice president of her class. Here, Helen began to write about her life. She wrote the story both in Braille and on a normal typewriter. The Story of My Life was edited by John Macy, who later married Anne. The writing was published in a magazine in 1903 and she was paid for it. So now Helen wrote her story and it was published and she was paid for it. Helen once said, "We, the blind, are as indebted to Louis Braille as mankind is to Gutenberg." On 28 June 1904, Helen graduated from Radcliffe College. Helen became the first deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. So she became the first blind person who got a degree of Bachelor of Arts. Helen now felt that she must educate people. She thought of ways to help the blind. Her main goal in life was to spread awareness regarding the neglected state of the blind, their innate abilities and their aspirations. She had to raise funds not only to sustain a living for herself, but also to start projects to remove darkness from the lives of other blind people. That she thought she could do best by giving lectures and writing. She strongly felt that she must give others what she had gained from Anne. So now, as Helen had become a successful person, she wanted to do something for other blind people. She wanted to inspire them and educate them. So she thought she can do this only by writing and giving speeches. So this is how she wanted to give others what she got from her teacher Anne. So children, that's it for the chapter. I hope it was very inspiring. Now we are going to read our vocabulary. Let's see. Aspiration, strong desire to do something. Benefactors, benefactors are people who give money or others help to somebody. Barely is in a way that almost does not happen. Far from something is very different from what is expected. Inspired is high in confidence. Innate is a quality that you have when you are born. Indebted means grateful. Insisted is demanded firmly. Impolite means not showing good manners. Ill-tempered means angry and irrational. Miserable is very unhappy or uncomfortable. Motivated means wanting to put effort and do something. Professional guidance is guidance from people well trained in something. Recommended is suggested. Subsided means came down to normal level. Traumatizing is shocking and very upsetting. Threw tantrums means behaved angrily and unfairly. Unreasonable means not practical or sensible. So that's it for the chapter, children. Now we have this exercise which you have to do on the basis of the chapter. And with this, we are done with today's chapter. Now you have to practice the rest by yourself. I will come back soon with another interesting chapter of your English literature. Till then, keep on learning. Bye-bye.